Now, this is one that I've been struggling with, and I've been doing research on in and out that it's just hard to kind of piece together. And I hope you be able to explain this to me. Bulking or lean bulking, what's the difference and why? And furthermore, what are the steps of your preferred method, and how can we because I know that there's two stages to bodybuilding, bulking and cutting, but yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. I love talking about bulk and cutting. It brings a smile to my face because I enjoy the bulking. It's in some weird and sadistic way I enjoy the cutting as well. But anyway, so
it's that pain pleasure mentality,
Yeah, it's a bit strange. There is a percentage of people that are also that strange as well. But anyway, so let me talk about kind of. I'll talk about the bulking cutting. So essentially, for bulking, you need to be in a calorie surplus. So you need to be eating enough calories so that your body has what they call a basal metabolic rate, so BMR. And that's the amount of calories that your body burns based when it's not doing anything. So like I'm sitting on this couch right now, my BMR might be 2,000 calories. All right. So now if I go and do something, if I go walk to the letterbox, or if I go walk to the beach, or if I go and maybe play some soccer or anything like that, or I go to the gym, then I'm going to burn a certain amount of calories. So if, for argument's sake, if I have 1,000 calories of activity throughout the day, maybe a 500 calorie gym session, maybe a 250 calorie game of tennis, maybe some shooting some basketball hoops, maybe a walk with the dog, just say 1,000. Then in order for me to maintain my body weight, so just say I weigh 100 kilos.
Yeah.
Then in order to maintain 100 kilos, then I need, in terms of the numbers, I need to eat 3,000 calories. 2,000 of that is my basal metabolic rate, my BMR, and the 1,000 is the exercise or the incidental exercise, so, walking to the bus stop, that sort of stuff. Now, in theory, if that's worked out and that balances up, then I should maintain my weight. So my 100 kilos would be, if I eat the same amount, I do the same activity day in, day out, then that's where that would sit. So I would be 100 kilos at the end of the week because I do the same activity. Now, if I want to increase my weight, then I have to eat a bit more. Now, eating a bit more is dependable on more or less your genetics as a part of it, but also stems off what they call your somatotype. Your three main somatotypes, you have an ectomorph, which is usually really thin and lengthy in, smaller bone sets and smaller wrists. You got an endomorph, which is really large sort of individuals. And then you got a mesomorph, which is the one in between. If I had to look at sports, an ectomorph is probably usually maybe a marathon runner. If I have to look at a mesomorph, that's probably more a rugby union or league player, because obviously they got to have a bit of meat, a bit of body fat to take contact. And then at the other end of the scale, an endomorph would be probably the size, maybe not as big as a sumo wrestler, but your really largest sort of people that they when they want to lose weight and they look at a donut, they gain weight. That's the sort of metabolism that they have. They have a pretty slow metabolism. So the ectomorph, you look at that, they can pretty much, they've got hollow legs. They can eat as much as they want and they still have abs. For a bigger person, they're annoying, okay? They're really annoying because they're like, I can't gain weight. We're like, yeah, you can't gain weight because your metabolism is firing all the time and your somatotype is kind of stiff. And generally speaking, if you look at your grandparents and your parents, you can kind of once you grow to your full physical size, so like in the mid-20s, then you can kind of determine which parent you mainly took after. And then your meso, they tend to gain muscle reasonably quickly. They gain body fat. No, they can gain body fat, but not. They can still eat a certain amount of carbs. And then your endomorph, like I said, if they look at a donut, they probably end up they almost feel like they can hardly eat carbs all the time, or they have to eat a very strict diet in terms of seeing results, because their metabolism equally runs. So ectomorph runs really fast, mesomorph runs, moderate, and then endomorph, it's like a snail. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the bulking. So you have to, in order to gain, you got to eat more. But if
because
you don't, you go.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Alex, but your body, like the different muscle groups. Let's say on Monday I hit chest and tries. I've torn up those muscles by lifting that weight. We all know how muscles, the process of muscle building, but I've torn up those muscle fibers. I've done the microscopic damage. Doesn't your body require a certain amount of calories or to kind of repair those and to furthermore build those muscles, kind of to make them bigger and stronger, and that is why we eat at a calorie surplus. Would you?
Yeah, absolutely. So to support what you said, if you're wanting to grow muscle, and doesn't matter what body type you are, endomorph, ectomorph, mesomorph, makes no difference. If any of those body types want to get more muscle, you have to eat more food, and you have to have sufficient amount of enough food to fuel that muscle. And now, obviously, dependable on what you eat. Like if it was as easy as I could eat anything I want and I'm going to gain muscle and gain, unfortunately, it doesn't quite.
Kind of like the gym bro advice of eat big to get big,
Yeah, exactly. It is based on, are you eating enough protein? Are you eating the right carbohydrates and timing? But also with the fats in your body for muscle repair and all the other things that it does as well. So that's in terms of the building aspect. When you're cutting, or when people are losing weight, the one thing that sometimes some people fall into a trap is that they reduce how much they're eating, but they don't do any resistance training to hold on to the current muscle that they have. So if for argument's sake, if a 100-kilo person has maybe, let's say 70 kilos of lean muscle, if they don't do any resistance training, they could lose a couple of kilos over a period of 5, 6, 10 weeks. Now, if that same person doesn't do the resistance training helps maintain it. So there's a saying that people say is, if you don't use it, you lose it. And that's no different to if you're an older person that's in an aged care facility that doesn't no longer work. And that's why they do like bingo and puzzles and stuff.
Yeah.
Doing it because because if you don't use your mind, you lose it. If you don't use your muscles, you lose them. Like anyone that's ever had a cast on their arm or their leg, well, you go and have a look at what happens to that, your leg or your arm, it atrophies, so it shrinks. So there has to be sufficient amount of work, so exercise on the muscle to support when you're in a calorie deficit. So you're eating less than you're burning. So back to what we said before, if your basal metabolic BMR is 2,000 calories, your activity level is 1,000, then you'd need to be in a deficit. So you might be eating 2,900 calories, or it might be 25. Now, how much that person needs to be in a deficit, but once again, that goes back to that individual on how fast or slow their metabolism works and how much muscle they have. If you have an individual with a lot of lean muscle, like a lot of muscle, then generally their metabolism would usually run a lot faster than if they didn't. And then holding on to that is dependable on the same factors as when you're going up in weight and whether you're gaining body fat, except you're going in reverse. So when you're going down in weight, maintaining the right level of protein in the body, eating the right source and right quantity of carbohydrates, and equally eating the right source and quantity of fats. So that's this balancing effect. Now, to go full circle to what you're saying about lean bulking, it's it's a bit of a misused term that some people have. Now, the thing is, when people first start training, they get what some people call the newbie gains, and some people they're a lot. And it's like the first 5-10 kilos, like, wow, holy moly, boom. The body changes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, look at this.
Feeling great.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't keep going. Like, I used to think years ago, I was like, and then until I just gained a whole heap of body fat, and I was like, oh, rats.
Oh.
But, so what happens when people, if you're more active, or if you're doing exercise and just say you're not, then you start building muscle. And what that is probably a better way of looking at it. That's changing the body composition. To lean bulk, there has to be, in my opinion, it's a contradiction of terms. You can't get lean and bulk at the same time. It doesn't really work. Like if a person wants to truly get the optimum amount of lean muscle, they have to put themselves in an uncomfortable spot, as in push past. If you're a 100-kilo individual, just say a bodybuilder or a person that's got a fair amount of muscle, and you don't want to look the same next time you cut weight, because the whole reason why you cut weight is either because you want to look better on the beach, or you want to feel better on yourself, or you want to look better on stage. Is if you don't push your body past 100 kilos, if you don't push to 105, 110, 120 over a long period of time, and do resistance training, then you'll end up looking the same or worse when you cut weight. So if I look at what I currently do at the moment, I've last competed in March 2020, and I started a comp prep this year, but it didn't work out. The timing wasn't right. Dropped 7 kilos from just say January to April. And then I was like, well, I stopped in April. So I went from that weight. And then basically from April to now, I gained that 7 kilos back. I've done it slow and steady, but my intention is to gain weight slowly, because the body can only grow a certain amount of lean muscle per year. And for an individual, that's different. It might be half a kilo, it might be 1 kilo, it might be 3 kilos, it might be 5 kilos. If you can get 5 kilos in a year, good for you. That's generally in the first couple of years of training, though. For young people, it's because your body's already growing, then you're going to probably get that bump in addition to it. So you're going to not only get that bump where, I'm no longer 15, I am now 16, or I am now 17. All that hormones, all that good stuff, go and do some exercise with it. Holy moly, that is the best opportunity to go and get gains. It is golden. But
it is.
Yeah, the thing is, at that age as well, what happens when most people turn 18?
What happens?
What do most people do when they're 18? What are people allowed to do?
Start partying, start drinking.
Yeah. So then getting gains in partying, that slows down.
Mix.
Well, it's a contradiction of what wants to be achieved. If a person at 18 wants to get strong and get fit or whatever it is, or lose weight, it slows down the body. The alcohol it inhibits either weight loss or muscle gain. So we're in that stage of, my friends are partying. I want to be so. Oh my God. Oh, what am I doing now? But I want to have friends. Oh, can I have a little bit? Or can I have a lot? Kind of a conundrum. And for some people that don't drink at all and don't hang out with certain social circles, they're like, well, if all my mates are getting on the drink and drinking the beers and the wines or whatever, and then they're like, well, what do we got in common? We're all 18, we're all going out, and it's like, oh, okay. So there's that to battle as well. Do I go like, I'm just going to do some chest today, and your mates are like, you soon figure out who your friends are. If you're always at the gym pumping iron, they're always at the pub, well, you're probably not going to have them around for a very long time unless you've got other things in common. Like you play video games together, or if you work together, you might have that in common. But generally, you are you are the average of the people you hang around with. If that makes sense. You know,
it does, yeah.
Yeah, if you hang around the same as what I said before with the influences that you get. If you hang around people that are health conscious, that enjoy eating good food and doing training and thinking about their body, then you probably will too. But if you are around people, and this is nothing to say this is the way a person should be. This is simply human behavior, and when we make decisions. If you are around always eat takeout and you want to eat clean, well, then you're going to have, it's harder for the person that's going to eat clean. Like, you're going to be like, well, I'm going to eat a salad and some fish. You can go and eat chips and a burger and some pizza, and I'm going to be over here, because you're going to smell the pizza and the burger. And, mate, the burger and the chip are pretty damn good. So,
there's no John on it.
Those things as well. But so to wrap up with the lean bulking, is there an optimal way? You kind of have to fit one or the other. When right amount of protein in the diet and has enough resistance and fruits and vegetables and that sort of stuff, and the right training stimulus, then they'll get body recomposition. So, and that'll come to a certain point where that won't go any further. They'll be like, oh, well, I need to start now eating more food because I'm now at that ceiling of where that composition stops. I want to push it further. So what do I have to do? Well, I got to start gaining a bit of weight. And you're like, oh no, I don't want to gain any more weight. So you end this, if you got to get past the battle of, it's okay to gain a bit of body fat. It's not the end of the world. You know, like you might, the got to get past is the checks that people do. When people get really lean, they get, you know, they take more photos of themselves. They run around with their shirt off a lot more. Maybe they're swimming costumes more, things like that. When you intentionally gaining weight for the purpose of gaining muscle, you probably don't take your shirt off anywhere near as much, because you're like, oh, I may not be like how I feel, maybe not. Maybe you would. Maybe you go like, no, I don't care. I just want to get jacked. I want to get massive. So everyone's gonna target that a bit differently. If you come from a person that's had a bit of body fat, maybe was a bit self-conscious, got a bit leaner, if it isn't a sore point, or if it isn't something you've worked through, then gaining that body fat, if you don't frame it right in your head, and that's probably the biggest thing, if you frame it right in your head, then that can help put things into perspective, because that's where it all starts. Back to what we said before, what are the kind of the fundamentals of bodybuilding, and it's all actually all mind. It's not actually all the arm curls and all the chest and the back. It's all upstairs, mate. That's where it all starts.
People think being in the gym and lifting weights is the hard part, but it's all mental. It's all mental.
So if you think about, if you're a morning trainer or an afternoon training person, if you're waking up at 4:00 in the morning to go to the gym, well, if you're not used to waking up that time, that's going to be really hard. That's going to hurt too. At least it's no different to if you're finishing, whether it's school, university, or work, and when you finish, and you, instead of going straight to the gym, you go home. You have a feed, you sit on the couch, and you're like, I'm bothered. That requires effort too. You're like, you have to have enough motivation inside. The goals have to be, where's my goal at? What do I want to do? Yeah. So if that goal is that strong, you're like, I want to get there. I'm going to do it, and no one's going to stop me from doing it. Well, then no one will stop you from doing it, particularly if you take the right steps to get there, So if you want it bad enough, you can get it. If a person wants, it needs to be realistic to what the body can achieve. If a person wants to get, 100 kilos on a deadlift, and they're deadlifting 50, well, maybe in 6 months they might get there if they stagger training, Yeah. If a person says, oh, well, I'm currently now 60 kilos, I want to be 200, well, unfortunately, unless you've got superior genetics and you're 6'5", that may not happen, because there's a limit where the physical body will grow to. And unless you're a sumo, you may not, unless you want to get to 200 kilos, that is. 200 pounds, on the other hand, well, that's like 96 kilos or something, 94 kilos. So,
Yeah.
it's still pretty cool. So, yeah.